Ladies and gentlemen, back during the time when these players were taking a knee against police brutality, they got a lot of backlash. Not from everybody. Many did understand the reason why they were doing it. And those that didn't like it tried to make it uh, something against police and something against the military. And those were just diversions. And at the end of the day, you can't deny the police brutality and the murders on the police squad around this country. So, the same thing Colin Kaepernick was trying to bring attention to is the very same thing that goes on today. Nothing has changed. You have no right to be mad at any of these men for trying to bring attention to something that is prevalent in the country. These aren't isolated incidents. This is the norm. And that's what makes this country sick. So this came out in the Daily Mail. Colin Kaepernick warns of a revolt in the wake of George Floyd's death. This is May 28th, 2020. Former San Francisco 49er quarterback and civil rights figure Colin Kaepernick is calling revolution the only logical reaction to the violent arrest and subsequent death of a Minnesota man, George Floyd. When civility leads to death, revolting is the only logical reaction. The Kaepernick tweeted Thursday, 3 days after Floyd's after his death. I can't bear to look at that video anymore. And people have it popping up all over the place. And now when I see it, I want to watch people's videos, but I'm clicking out of the video. I just can't watch that anymore. I just can't. The cries for peace will rain down. And when they do, they will land on deaf ears. Yeah, always have for all this time. When these men were trying to bring attention to all of the police violence, all we got from the high IQ people was, I'm not going to go to the game no more. I ain't going to pay my money. I'm going to burn my sneakers. And totally overlooking the whole cause of the entire thing. And you can best believe those same people would do the same thing today. It would be pointless trying to have any conversation with them. It would be absolutely a waste of time. Because your violence has brought this resistance, we have the right to fight back. Rest in power, George Floyd. 4 police officers in Minneapolis were fired Tuesday after the video went viral, showing one cop kneeling on 46-year-old Floyd's neck as he cried out for help, saying he couldn't breathe. Floyd is ultimately seen passing out and later declared dead at a local hospital. He died on that ground. I don't give a damn about what they say in Minneapolis. He died on that ground. Y'all need to get off of this bullshit about he died at the hospital of some medical incident. Y'all a bunch of fucking liars. The 4 fired cops after Monday's incident have been officially identified as Derek Chauvin, Thomas Lane, Tao Tio, and J. Alexander Coop. Wow. The store that George Floyd went into, it was a store owned by an Arab. And he was saying he's now getting death threats. for calling the police because he was the one that called the cops. When civility leads to death, revolting is the only logical reaction. The cries for peace will rain down. You're right. So this is what he had tweeted. This is what Colin Kaepernick had tweeted, what I had read to you previously. Floyd was being arrested for allegedly using 4 documents at a local deli. His family has called for 4 officers to be charged with murder. The FBI is investigating the death for a possible civil rights violation. Kaepernick is far from the only athlete condemning the killing. LeBron James shared his anger on Instagram, posting a picture of Kaepernick kneeling during the national anthem as a member of the 49ers during the 2016 season to raise awareness about inequality and racist police brutality. And see, in this country, they got this habit. If you use your Black voice to speak out, because they do this on YouTube too, they do it on YouTube. If you use your Black voice to speak out, you are now the enemy. You hate white people when your message is not about hating white people, but this is what their ears want to hear. So they will fabricate this whole thing in their head just so they don't have to stay on the subject matter. And the first thing they want to do is find a way to get the money away from the person that's talking like me, or talking like Kaepernick, or talking like LeBron. Oh, well, I mean, we need to see what we can do to destroy them and take the money, because that's how their minds work. Instead of realizing you got a broken system. Your system is so broke, people lose their lives in it. But it just go to show you the corrupt mind of the average citizen. So if their minds are that corrupt, how do you expect the system to change? It won't. It won't. James' caption explained the tragedies, like the one in Minnesota, where Kaepernick took a knee. He has been out of the NFL since March of 2017 and has settled a collusion grievance with the NFL team owners for an undisclosed amount after accusing them of colluding against them to keep him unsigned in retaliation for the controversial protest. Now, Floyd actually was friends with NBA star Steven Jackson. He knew Floyd personally since the late 90s from their days in Eastern Texas. And he told the Daily Mail that the officers involved in his arrest deserved the death penalty. This was his friend. See, you never know who that person might have known. I honestly want the death penalty for the cops because casually handed in his pocket. Yes, right, he did. He had his knee on his neck and had his hand in his pocket like he was squatting for a damn picture. Killed my brother, Jackson, 42, told the Daily Mail. No effort. He put no effort into killing him. Kneeling on his neck, had him cuffed, and just suffocated him. The only way that people are going to feel like there's justice, and the only way these police are going to stop killing people in broad daylight, like it ain't nothing, is if they start dying too. There's many that would agree with him. Many. Jackson, a native of Port Arthur, Texas, and Floyd, a Houston native, met through mutual friends in the late 90s and had remained close, according to the former NBA forward. We met through friends, but as soon as we met, the first thing everyone was saying was, "Y'all look like twins," Jackson told the Daily Mail. Everybody kept saying it, and we started calling each other twin. Jackson had become an advocate for civil rights in his retirement, frequently addressing racism on his popular podcast, All That Smoke, which is why he initially thought Floyd's arrest video was being sent to him as simply another example of police brutality. I'm on the couch sleeping with my daughter, and I get a text from my girlfriend's mom because we always talked about police brutality and all that stuff that's going on in the world. "How it ain't fair," he said. "She sent me the video and I'm half asleep. I looked at the video like, oh, they killed one of us again." As I clicked through the messages, I seen that I had 15 to 20 more messages, he continued, to click into the first message, and I see what they did to Floyd in Minnesota. Jackson immediately knew what the sender was referencing. I put two and two together because my girlfriend's mother lived in Minnesota. He continued. I just broke down and I screamed. I didn't want to believe it was true. I watched the video and it got worse after that. To Jackson, the problem is not a complicated one because something he's seen before. They're racist, he said, referencing to the police who arrested Floyd on Monday. Although Floyd did not have a weapon or appear to be a threat to the officers, they still forced him to the ground after he allegedly resisted arrest, which is a complete lie. That is not what is shown on camera. But they always tell that lie on Black folks. If you notice, a resisting arrest is always the first go-to thing when they're dealing with Black people. And rarely is it true. When you look at the video, you can count on one hand how many occasions you might have seen some resistance. In most cases, there's no resisting at all. But these folks want you to believe them and not what your two eyes is seeing on that video. Many other athletes voiced their concerns on social media. World honestly sickening. It really is. No explanation. Brown wide receiver Odell Beckham Jr. said on a Twitter post, "If it ain't that follows me is not outraged about these senseless attacks on Black men, please stop following me," wrote former WNBA Lisa Leslie. "If your spirit is not disturbed, please stop following me. This afflicted pain, but it will never inflict fear. Sorry, we're not made like that. Hashtag Black Men Matter." And if you remember, Lisa Leslie did an interview with Gayle King. Some of you might remember. Ladies and gentlemen, some of you may not agree with Colin Kaepernick, but I happen to support what he did back then. And these men were absolutely right. But you know, there are many that won't admit it, but they were right. And what they did back in 2016 still rings true in 2020, as it will in 2021, 2022. Those crowds were out there, ladies and gentlemen, because people want change. The same way of doing things is no longer going to be acceptable. See, they want to keep this in place because they're desperately trying to keep their grip over this world. But sometimes you have to accept that things are moving forward and your time is simply up. Just like we never could prosper in this country, you won't anymore either. You can only pretend so much when it comes down to coronavirus. But at the end of the day, you're going to have to accept you didn't resolve this thing. And you're ultimately going to send people to their death. Many people are not down with going to their death to keep heartless people in power. Many people are not down with going to their death to keep people rich that hate them. It's going to be a hard sell for you. Let me know how it works out. Please leave your comment and subscribe. Don't forget to hit on the notification bell, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace, family.